Greetings, music lovers. I'm Ace, and you're tuned in to For the Rotation, the podcast where DJ stories become the soundtrack to your success. In each episode, we'll embark on a journey through DJ stories that transcend music, weaving through the highs, the lows, and the transformative power of resilience. Join me as we explore the rhythm of accomplishment, turning obstacles into opportunities as we learn how my guests did it all for the rotation. Today's guest is one really good friend of mine. I would say great. Could say so many things about this man. He's done a lot for the broadcast industry, has accomplished quite a lot in his career. And I think you're going to find his story very, very inspiring and realize why they call him the man, Micheal Motion.
Hey, man, thank you for having me. This is awesome. What a great operation here. Shout out to the crew, too, by the way. Some legendary people in the house. And thank you for making this all happen, man. This is amazing.
Absolutely, man. Thank
Such
you
an
for
honor to
being
be here.
It's an honor to have you. So, Mike, let's just start with your journey through music. And I wanted to find out, how did you find your love for music, or who do you credit to that?
Yeah, so, man, I grew up, not very far from here, Los Angeles, and born and raised. So it's kind of a hard upbringing. And, my parents didn't really come from a lot of means and money and things like that. So,
Yeah.
they had to work and do hard manual labor and things like that. And I remember, having to kind of assist my parents with their jobs and things like that. And,
Hmm.
ever since a young age, 5 years old, 6 years old, I'd be working in a truck with my dad and things like that. And
Yeah.
the only escape that I had from that was the radio, listening to the radio in that work truck and early in the morning and
Hmm.
coming home and things like that. So, I'd always wanted to kind of, leave that truck and somehow transport myself into that radio box. And that's kind of where that love for music and the spark for broadcasting was kind of, lit. And at that moment,
Hmm.
wanting to kind of escape that and see what else this world had to offer. And yeah, I think that had a lot to do with why, I chose the path that I eventually did.
Mm. So, was it the music, or was it the radio show or the broadcasting?
It was a little bit of everything. It was painting pictures with sound, and it was the sound design, and it was just the images that came to your head, and just theater of the mind. And it was just one of those things where it was like, I love the music. I want to see what everyone's doing, and seeing what everyone's doing in their morning shows, and just being
Right.
creative with audio and with callers and interacting and things like
Mhm.
that. It was just an awesome escape mentally for me to kind of leave the physical world and kind of inject myself into that realm. So I think it was a little bit of everything. Definitely being from Los Angeles, the urban formats
Yeah.
kind of captured my attention a little bit more. You heard it out in the streets and at the supermarkets and everywhere you went.
Mhm.
I came from a urban area, and so you heard it everywhere around you. So
Yeah.
that really captivated me. But I bounced around everywhere from the radio dial. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So, when did your journey to becoming a DJ begin? Is there someone who introduced you to?
Wow. Nobody specifically introduced me to it. I think it was, wanting to mimic that radio sound that it kind of set the bar in my
Okay.
head,
Hmm.
at least, to want to mimic that sound. And we're in Los Angeles, it's one of the biggest markets in radio, so
Yeah.
it's already a winning formula. So
Yeah.
that had a lot to do with structuring the way that I now structure my broadcasts and things like that. um but yeah, there wasn't anyone specific, but it was a lot of influential people that I was able to watch on VHS videos. If you guys don't know what VHS is, cassettes into VCRs. I would buy a lot of the DJ battles that were going on at that time. I couldn't afford equipment at that time.
Okay.
That didn't come till a little bit later when I was about 13 years old. Um, I wanted a turntable really bad, and
Yeah.
I would watch these videos with super duper DJs like the Beat Junkies and things like that.
Right.
And they were doing amazing things. So at the time I couldn't afford equipment, and it wasn't up until I was about 13 years old, I want to say.
Uh-huh.
My one of my sisters bought me a turntable. It was a belt-driven turntable. I
Okay.
think it was a Gemini or something like that from Radio Shack or whatnot.
Yeah.
And that really sparked my interest in wanting to mimic what they were doing, or use the turntable as an instrument. We didn't really have a lot of access to instruments where I'm from, so I really wanted to take that and manipulate records and sound into
Hmm.
the stuff that people were creating on the radio in the truck. So
Yeah.
it was a journey for me, that going from imagination to kind of making it a reality.
Wow, it's amazing. So your sister really brought that to life for you.
Yeah, she bought me one turntable, and what I did, there was I remember being up late at night one time, like 2, 3 in the morning, and you used to get these infomercials where it
Right.
was like you order, uh, it was like a learn how to speak English or Spanish type of VHS set
Yeah.
cassettes, but it came with this boom box. It came with the boom box. So I think I snuck around, and I stole my parents' credit card, and I ordered the damn thing just to get the boom box. I you know and it finally came in the mail, and my parents like, what is this? They're calling the company like, we didn't order this or whatever. I'm like, I'll take the boombox, but you should probably tell them that you didn't order that. But
Yeah.
I took the boombox, and I took it in my room, and I took it apart. And it had these. If you guys don't know what a boombox is, no, I took it apart, and you put cassette tapes in there, only because you could kind of mimic the sound of that the turntable makes when you shut it off. So I would record tapes from the radio, the music from the radio,
Okay.
basically downloading music, and play it on the cassettes, and then mix to the other turntable, and put my finger in it. That's why I took it apart, so I can manually stop the tape. It sounds ridiculous when I'm saying it back to
Uh-huh.
myself, but that was what I was doing, kind of mimicking the sound of a turntable and the timing of a turntable, and that kind of thing, and into the one belt driven turntable that I did have. So it was a challenge for sure. I would power the whole thing with the car battery that I took from my sister's car. Sorry, sorry, I don't know if she knew that, but now she knows. But I took her batteries, and the car amplifier, stereo amplifier, and I had two wires down. And every time I go to try to practice my scratching, I would literally touch the cable to the battery and put a tape on it, so it would power my DJ equipment. And I
Wow.
had to get that battery charge every month, but it was definitely a struggle, man. Yeah, trying to make it work and trying to bring this dream to life.
This is happening at 13.
At 13 years old, yeah, 13 years old.
That's amazing. So who do you credit to, like, or did you practice only on your own, or were there people that you how did you gravitate towards the craft of turntablism, and
Yeah,
learning how to scratch? I mean, granted, you can only learn so much from a video, and
you're
then
right.
you also can only learn so much from just watching people and listening to listening to the radio. But was there someone instrumental in your life that actually you used to practice with? And
So at that time, it was practice every day, every day, every day for me. I did that for about the first 8 years, all on my own in my bedroom, and I didn't play any gigs or go out and do this in public for 8 years. I wanted to really hone down on what I was doing and what kind of envisioned becoming.
how old were you when this was happening?
I was 13, up to maybe 16, 17.
16. Okay.
And I made sure I practiced every day. I would even skip school and just stay home and practice.
You had
And
turntables at the time, not
uh,
both of them, right?
yeah, I eventually saved up enough to buy myself some turntables. It wasn't the best equipment, but
There you go.
it's a pyramid mixer again, probably from Radio Shack. But
Hmm.
for the first 8 years, I honed it down in my bedroom just to make sure that when I did come out, I wasn't gonna be. I don't know. There was just a high standard watching, videos like what the beat junkies were doing, what the mix masters were doing,
Hmm.
and things like that. That I didn't, I kind of that was the standard, that was the
Yeah.
the bar. So I wanted to kind of, make sure that I was going to be ready to go by the time I played in public. So for those first 8 years, it was just me on my own, just practicing in my bedroom every
Hmm.
single day. I left school. I didn't, school wasn't really into it. I knew what I wanted to do,
Hmm.
and I remember telling my parents like, "Yeah, I'm just not going to go to school anymore," and
Hmm.
they're like, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I was literally behind the turntables when I was having this conversation. I'm like, "I'm going to do this," and they kind of
Ah,
just looked at each other for a second, and then they they looked back at me and they said, uh, "Well, if that's what you're gonna do, you better effing do it." And
there you go.
and that was all I needed to hear, and after that, yeah, it was on, man. Yeah, it was on after that. Just having their support and knowing that
Yeah.
they were behind this, and they never once told me to turn it down or complain or anything like that. It
Wow.
was full support. So I love that about them.
That's amazing to have such support
Yeah.
at such a young age and allowing you to believe in your dream. Um, that practice that you're doing, right? Went from 16, you said about 8 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How would you define that? What would be a word that you would use about like that was going on in your head, or like what would you describe? Like like
It was just drive. I think it was just drive, like focus and drive, like
yeah.
wanting to having a goal and going after that. And the only way I was gonna get that was practice. There's no, when it comes to DJing and really anything that you want to gain, any type of skill, there's really no easy button for that. You got to
Hmm.
put into time, you got to put into hours behind the decks,
Yeah.
and that was it. Putting in those 10,000 hours, 20,000 hours, 30,000 hours. They're really, and it's the same now. You
Yeah.
want to get better, you got to practice and you got to sit behind the turntables. Now I sit behind the turntables, but I'm still practicing, I'm still DJing every day, and I just wouldn't trade it for the world. It's brought me a career.
Yeah.
Everything I've accomplished, I think, comes from that. And it's just been drive. I don't get to see that quality in many people. You see it within your peers, but outside of that, there's definitely a lack of that, I think.
The determination. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here we are, Michael Motion, or not even Michael Motion yet, though, but still, he's DJing and practicing at the age of 16. Okay. What was the next step in your career where, we talked about broadcasting and the radio being your first passion and your introduction to music? Um, what was your next step in your life that got you closer to that dream? So what happened
Yeah.
next?
So I decided to possibly, inquire about taking some maybe radio classes and
Okay.
things like that. There's really no path to a broadcasting. At least there wasn't at that time. It
Yeah.
was just kind of, you either have it or you don't.
Hmm.
So I remember, doing my. I went back to community college and like, okay, I'm DJing, but what else is out there?
Right.
And I'm taking general courses over at Long Beach City College as was.
Okay.
And then one day I was standing in the hallway actually in the music department, and somebody literally tapped me on the shoulder,
Hmm.
and I turned around and they were like, "Hey, have you ever been interested in doing radio?
Mm.
And I was like, actually, yeah, but I've never really pursued it or anything like that. And they're like, well, hey, they're offering the radio course this summer. It's not on the syllabus, but if you pay, then we can have an instructor here. And if we get enough people
Yeah.
to take the course, then we can have a summer class.
Mhm.
And I'm like, cool. How much is it? And it was I don't know, $80 or so,
Okay.
and I paid the fee, and they allowed me to have my own radio show at the college. I think it was like 3 times a week, and there
Wow.
was no equipment in there. I had to lug in my turntables and crates of records and everything. There was really no gear in there,
Yeah.
and I went in there and played some records, and nobody was listening. Probably my mom was listening at the time, and that was it. And I would just kind of hone it down and crack the microphone here and there and kind of
Mhm.
practice and do things like that. But doing so allowed me to open up an editing software and start learning that and trying to figure out how to uh, mimic that stuff that I was listening to at a young age, and how to do some sound design and do
Yeah.
some comedy bits and some prank calls or something like that. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
I started dabbling into some software, and that really opened doors for me to where I felt confident enough to start applying at radio stations and things like that.
Okay.
And so, I did that for about a year, maybe 2 years. I was applying everywhere in Los Angeles, dropping my applications, and resume at the time wasn't really much, but nobody would really hire me or anything like that. And I,
Mhm.
I remember getting an interview at a country radio station,
Ah.
and I was so excited. I went in for the interview, and I came out of there, feeling like a million bucks. I thought I killed it. I'm like,
Yeah.
heck yeah. But I went home and I got a phone call from them, and they said, thanks, but no thanks. We're gonna
Oh.
pass. And I was just, it was crushing. But I kept practicing, and I kept putting out my applications and resume at the time,
Mhm.
and I got a few interviews here and there, but it wasn't up until a year later, like
Okay.
exactly almost a year later. Um, I kept applying, even at the same radio stations that were saying no.
Yeah.
And funny enough, the country station that had given me an interview, I think they forgot that they interviewed me before, because they actually like scheduled another interview,
Yeah.
and I went in there pretending like this was my first time, but now I knew.
Yeah.
Now I knew, I'm like, I got you. So I went in there, and now I killed it. And the reason I was like, okay, I don't care if it's a radio, if it's country station or a polka station or a hip hop station. I just
Mhm.
need to get in there.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that country radio station was in the same building and sister station for the number one urban station in Los Angeles, which is Power 106.
Mhm.
Same building, same staff. And so that time I ended up getting it. I got the gig, and it was a promotions job. So, I got in there, and I had to go to all the country concerts and go and set up and play music, which is, I give it up to them. The country parties are some of the craziest parties I've ever been to in my life.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. I mean, have you been to a Jimmy Buffett show? It's
I
insane, man.
I'm yet to go to a
Yeah,
Jimmy
yeah.
Buffett show.
Don't skip out on that, man. I'm serious. So, doing that, I slowly worked my way up to the programming department in there,
Okay.
and worked my way up into the studios. And slowly but surely, I got in close with the creative services director over at the at the country station, Fred Missman. Great producer, and I started assisting him. Even to the point where I started filling in when he was out, and then I was there. I want to say about 5 years
At
to
the country radio
at the
station.
country radio station. And at the time, I was also, taking these other radio jobs, like mixing at another radio station in the IE on the weekends as a
Okay.
DJ. And I would do some production for Power 106 here and there, and even guest mixing there a
Mhm.
couple times, and things like that were happening for me.
Mhm.
So, I was kind of navigating my way through the business, as a young kid, kind of trying to, make the dream happen.
Okay.
And after a while, I was approached. I was in one of my studios
Okay.
at the radio station where this executive producer guy walks in, Clarence Barnes, a legendary radio personality and just a great human being overall. Just I love Clarence and owe him so much. But he approached me and said, "Hey, man, we just signed Rick Dees in the morning, and
Okay.
his imaging director's leaving. Would I think you'd be perfect for that job?" And I'm like, me? You're talking to me right now? I'm like just a kid in this closet I call a studio, but it's really
Yeah.
the size of my closet, And I'm like, yeah, I could be that guy. And I'm like, well, what do you think I should do? I had no clue. And he's like, well, um, tomorrow we have Nancy Cartwright coming in.
Hmm.
She's the voice of Bart Simpson and a lot of the Simpsons characters.
Yeah.
Maybe you should I don't know, put something together about that. And I'm like, got it. So I go home and I'm like sitting on this. I'm like, oh man, am I really gonna, try and go for this?
Yeah.
And I had to go to school. I didn't go to school that day. I went. I stayed home
Okay.
and I recorded a bunch of the Simpson characters, and I put together about a 1 minute montage of all the voices. And it just so happens that Rick Dees was part of was a few of the Simpsons episodes, and they mentioned his name in there. And I
Hmm.
put together a nice montage,
Okay.
audio montage of all the voices and everything. It was creative
Okay.
and
Like something humorous.
something humorous, something
Okay.
fun and quick, for them to possibly play. And then I just emailed it back and I, went about my day.
Okay.
And then the next morning I was driving to the CC college.
Okay. To Long Beach.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm getting going, I'm driving over there and I'm listening to Rick Dees in the morning
Yeah.
and here it comes, man. They air it. They play it on the radio,
Oh my God.
And exactly my words. I had to pull over. I remember pulling over at a Wiener Schnitzel parking lot, like at 6 in the morning, and I'm jumping up and down in the middle of this parking lot, man. And people are looking at me like, this kid is,
What's wrong with
what's
this,
wrong with
man?
him? And I'm just like, man, this is happening. This is really wow. I just heard my stuff on the radio, and and then I get a phone call
Yeah.
from the executive producer, and he was like, "Hey, man, Rick really likes your stuff. What do you got for tomorrow?" And I'm like,
Wow.
huh? First of all, what?
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm like, well, who's coming in tomorrow? And it just so happens that it was Lou Diamond Phillips, the
Okay.
actor who
Yeah.
was actually in the movie La Bamba with Rick Dees.
Ah.
And so perfect, same thing. I didn't go to school the next day either. I drove my car over to Blockbuster Video.
Okay.
For those of you don't know what Blockbuster is, it was a video rental
Yeah.
store. You got to go rent the movies.
Uh-huh.
So I bought the movie La Bamba. I took it home. I put it in my doll that I had downloaded at some point illegally, probably. It's my software, and I
Yeah.
cut another montage of Lou Diamond Phillips on La Bamba and Rick Dees and interaction and things like that, and just made it a little bit tasteful.
Hmm.
And I sent it in, and same thing. I'm driving to school the next day, and boom, here it comes on the radio again. And it was just
Did you
one of
stop
those
at that
moments.
Wiener Schnitzel
Yeah,
one
I'm getting
time?
chills just talking about this. I don't think I've ever really talked about that, out loud. But
That's amazing.
um, yeah, it was just incredible feeling, man. And I mean, it was one of those moments like when I referring back to what I said, listening to that radio in my dad's truck. I was listening to Rick Dees in the morning, as a kid,
Right.
and I was listening to all of this stuff, and so to get a call and say Rick's a fan of that and playing my stuff, and it still doesn't make
Register. Yeah.
register. But
Yeah.
so they again, I get the call from the executive producer, and he's like, "Hey, man, Rick really loves your stuff. He wants to meet you. Can you be here right after the show ends?" And I'm like, sure, I'm there, so I didn't go to school that day either. I drove myself over to the radio station, and I was there right at 10 o'clock when Rick was getting done doing the morning show, and he walks out. I can still remember the feeling, the smell of the studios, the everything, and he comes out, and I'm standing right in front of him, and executive producer introduces me, and he's like, "Hi,
Mhm.
I'm Rick Dees," and I'm like, "I know," and he's like, "I'm a fan of yours," and that just meant the world to me. That was
Wow.
like a moment that it's just unbelievable still to this day. And I'm like, well, look, man, I'm a fan of yours. I have been for a long time. And he gave me his card and wrote down his personal phone number on it.
Wow.
And he said, maybe we can do some stuff together. And 17 years later,
After that
after
moment.
that moment,
Wow.
I got to produce the Rick Dees in the morning show all over the planet. I mean, syndicated in over 140 countries or so, and hundreds or thousands of stations around the globe. And and not only that, also producing the Rick Dees Weekly Top 40 around the planet.
Yeah.
I got to take over that after a few years, and also syndicated all over the world. It's still the longest running countdown show on the globe, and it's just one of those things. Like, if you want to do radio, that's the guy you want to do it with. That's the guy you want to learn from.
Mhm.
He's like a friend. He's like a dad to me. He's like an uncle to me.
Yeah.
He's like a mentor to me. He's just all of those things that you could ask for. It was just a blessing.
Wow. What a story. And I know it's not over yet, but I wanted to ask you something. Would like, this whole beginning of your story of like practicing 8 hours a day or for 8 years, doing this
Sure.
DJing thing, right? And then this shift that happened into broadcasting, and then this persistence that you put to like doing this show, like at Long Beach, and then leading to you being also persistent, right, and consistent on applying. Like, how would you describe this all this the success you've had up to that point where how does what do you feel contributed to that success attracting to you, like being in the right place at the right time, or how did you make that moment happen for you, or was it being lucky, or what like how would you describe that?
I think it has a lot to do with all of those things. All of those things. I think it has a lot to do with the drive that someone like me wanting to escape the realities of urban neighborhood, and what that brings, um and your work ethic, the amount of focus that you have, and you combine all those things, and you're manifesting what you
Mm,
want, your life to kind of shape out to become. and
hmm.
and it's not just one ingredient in there. I think it has a lot to do with the drive, with the work ethic,
Okay.
with the amount of focus that you can attain if you
Hmm.
really put your mind to it and you want something.
Hmm.
It's just about manifesting that. And yeah, it has to do with some luck, but that comes from placing yourself in the right situations, placing myself at that country station,
Hmm.
placing myself in that studio around those people where I could be an option. And the work ethic, not just sitting there, but actually trying to improve my skills, and trying to develop that, and
Hmm.
I still make it a point to do that to this day, because
Hmm.
technology is changing ever so fast now that I've seen people kind of phase out because they don't keep up with the technologies. And I think that has been instrumental in my career, keeping up with the latest and greatest, so you're able to compete in this climate. Because
Hmm.
when I landed the Rick Dees gig as an imaging director,
Hmm.
I think there was about 50 other producers from all over the world, up for the same job and seasoned producers, and here I am. I'm just a kid and trying to get my production going and sharpening my skills off bootleg software, and so
Yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with wanting to develop and keep learning and keep at it, trying
Yeah.
to be the best and getting there, but it's harder to sustain that. It's one thing to get the job, but I think it's much harder to keep the job,
Okay.
and that's the key because it's so competitive in this world, especially in Los Angeles and in the East Coast, two of the biggest markets in the world.
Yeah.
You have to stay sharp, you know.
So that's what it is, staying
A
sharp.
combination of all those ingredients and practicing and just staying sharp, man.
And that's how you kept that job.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were an imager first. How did you become his producer? What was that? How did that transition?
Yeah, so with working alongside a man like that is just gonna do everything you need to know about broadcasting. It's like a master
Mhm.
class every day. You're performing, you're learning. Not just technical, but
Yeah.
um, the human interaction. Rick
Yeah.
and I did a show every day for years. And so it's a matter of learning each other's breaths,
Yeah.
learning each other's cues, and
Yeah.
positioning your bodies in certain ways to perform in certain ways. I know his cues just by kind of reading each other's faces and emotions and things like that, to where I know where I need to go on
Mhm.
the board and things like that, and what to hit next or what's coming up, or there might be a punchline coming up, so I'm gonna set him up so he can hit it
Mhm.
out the park and be the rock star that he is. So I think all of those elements, being around somebody like that, so talented and so just gifted, he's just a
Yeah.
gift to the world and especially to broadcasting. It's just one of those things where it's impossible not to pick up on those talents and those habits and really hone it down, and know what kind of stories to go to and what's topical and what isn't, and what to talk about and what are the callers reacting to, and setting up a show. But maybe the callers might be more into this topic, so knowing how to pivot that, even though you prepared for this topic on that day,
Yeah.
and just listening to the audience, listening to the people, your demographic, and really asking yourself what's in it for the listener. What do they get from this? You want to give them something of value. They're spending time of their day with you, and you're entertaining and you're giving them music and great, but you want to give them something extra, something they can take with them and get to work and talk to their friends about. Hey, did you hear, what's going on over at Walmart? They got this stuff going on. Rick was talking about it this morning or
Yeah.
whatever. Something they can take of value. And so that's the way you kind of are training your brain to think, and you know trying to follow those kinds of trends and what the audience might react to.
Hmm. That's so amazing. So here we are. Um, after like you producing for Rick for so many years, what 17 years, right? Um, what what was your next step after that? Did you? I mean, let me ask you even more like of a better question, which would be, have you ever experienced any setbacks or challenges during these periods of times? Like, what can you share any experiences?
Getting to the point where you're doing a radio show in Los Angeles for years and years and years, and then the station goes away and they sell the station, and then the next day you're unemployed and you're not doing anything, and you go from very high highs
Yeah.
to very low lows, and
Hmm.
and it's one of those things, like the higher you get, uh what is it, the harder you fall and the longer you fall, and it's very true, man. You go through those emotions and that dynamic, and it really is about your focus, your drive, and wanting it that bad,
Yeah.
for whatever the reason might be, because those reasons tend to change. Before I did this because it's what I wanted to do, is what I grew up doing. I
Yeah.
thought it'd be a cool gig, all of the above,
Yeah.
and then now it's formed into You know, you have a family and you got to support your family and doing it creatively and through your art, you know, which is a very difficult thing to do, whether you're in this industry or any artistry. You
Right.
know, making a living from art is a very difficult thing to do for
Right.
some folks. So you know, those reasons, the reasons always change, but I think if you have the drive and the determination and that focus, I think it'll get you there. But the setbacks, you know, were vast, man. Everything from, you know, I mean, I still had to work my way up from DJing house parties to doing clubs, and then moving into radio, and then moving into festivals, and you know,
Mhm.
gaining festivals and not having a crowd, or losing a festival gig because I had to go and do radio, or no, or missing out on holidays with family because I had to be in the studio and editing some shows or whatnot, you know, or recording whoever. So you know, there's those kinds of setbacks, but you know, I was lucky enough to find a mentor through my journey.
Okay.
You know, pretty early in my journey, I found a great well, another you know another blessing to this world, you know, Mix Master Tony G
Okay.
from the original K Day 1580 AM, you
Mhm.
know, the first hip hop radio station in the West Coast. And so, you know, I met Tony, and we exchanged information, and he's like, yeah, you know, come over my studio and you teach me some things and I'll teach you some things.
Mhm.
And I was like, great, you know, and I never really thought that it would happen, and I even hesitated to call for a very long time, you know? I'm like, "Why am I bothering this man, you know? What am
Yeah.
I gonna teach this guy? He's been doing radio forever. He's the mix master, like, amazing DJ turntablist that, you know, if not just the West Coast, the world grew up listening to and studying,
Yeah.
and had the first, you know, high energy mix show on any radio dial, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember mustering up the courage to call Tony one time, and, um, and I called him and it was ringing, and I was so nervous. And then he picks up the phone, and
Alright.
I remember I was driving, and he picks up the phone and he's like, "Hey, Mike. Hey, I'll call you right back, man. I'm in a meeting. I'm so sorry. I'm in the middle of a meeting. Can I call you right back? I'll call you right back." Hangs up the phone. I'm like, man, I blew it.
You
You know, I blew it. Like, you know, like somebody picks up the phone. They're like, "Hey, man, I'll call you back." Boom, and they just hang up on you. I thought, you know, I
Yeah.
thought it was one of those situations. So I'm like, man, you know, I'm so devastated. I'm broken inside. And then I'm like driving from somewhere, and my phone starts ringing, and he calls me back. He actually called me back, and he's like, "Hey man, what's up? Sorry about that. I was in the middle of a meeting, you know."
Yeah.
And he was doing a radio show over at Power 106 at the time, and so you know the meeting was about that. And he explained the whole thing. He's like, "Hey man, why don't you come up to my studio over at the legendary G Spot, and where he recorded, you know." All the early Easy E, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Exhibit stuff, Cypress Hill, you
Wow.
name it, you know, if it's West Coast, it came out of there, you know. So
Yeah.
shout out to my big brother Tony G, man, and the KD Mix Masters, man, you know. But you know, learning from a guy like that, after that, it was like practice, practice, practice every day. For a minute there, it was about every day for 2 years span. We would get
Wow.
in there every day at around 9 o'clock in the PM till about 7 a.m. in the morning,
What?
and practicing behind the turntables. And you know, just when you think you know, when you're like, yeah, I got it, Tony, check it out. He's like, boom, puts on 45, speeds up the turntable, and he's like, no, you don't. Now go at it again. You know, like, oh
Oh,
man, you
man.
know. So that's training. That's training. You know, and I would
Yeah.
see these people come in and out of there while I'm in there practicing, like the guys I was buying the VHS from, the beat junkies were coming in out of there, and I'm like watching these superheroes that I grew up idolizing, you know,
Yeah.
and they're coming in and out of there, and Tony's there, and I'm hanging out, and we're all scratching together, and I'm just amazed by the whole thing, you know, and trying to learn production and DJing, and just how to navigate through this business.
Yeah.
I couldn't have asked for a better mentor, two, with Rick and Tony, and just, just a family,
Hmm.
that's just family to me.
Yeah.
I owe them so much, and it just means everything to me.
Hmm.
It's amazing.
That's amazing. So what came next after Rick D's? Where did that take you?
Yeah. So, right around towards the end of that run,
Yeah.
I was being kind of spread thin, I guess. I was producing Rick's show. I was producing some imaging for an imaging company.
Okay.
I was writing music for some films that are currently on Netflix. I was producing some other morning show in Nebraska, I want to say, that they had me doing. And I was freelancing for Spotify at the time, So I'm making all these connections. I'm making all these nice network,
Yeah.
and along the path. And this is around the time when pandemic was coming around,
Yeah.
and radio was definitely taking a hit because not a lot of people were commuting. I was all over the place. I remember, they even a good friend of mine, Jason Ryan, called me over and said, can you help me edit and with the syndication for Big Boys Neighborhood, another radio show in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I did that for a few months as well, where I was just kind of being pulled around, and which is great and all, but I was trying to find a home again,
Hmm.
and then Spotify made a full-time offer, and
Nice.
I signed on as a sound designer for Spotify, and it was a thing where, I was able to use everything that I had gained from my journey, from the turntable,
Yeah.
comes the timing,
Hmm.
comes the musical chops.
Right.
It comes from radio, comes the engagement and knowing what the audience wants to react to, or what they don't. It was kind of putting all of the tools that I had gained from all these experiences,
Hmm.
and taking that and going to a company like Spotify, where they just lend themselves for you to be creative and develop um, soundscapes. Theater of the mind, which was the goal altogether.
Yeah.
And it really felt like a good home for me. So I
Yeah.
decided to sign on with Spotify for the time being. After that, yeah.
Wow. You also had a you also composed for something in Netflix, you didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Several things. The most current project was composing the opening track for one of the original Kings of Comedy, D.L. Hughley,
Hmm.
the comedian. One of my favorite comedians of all time, which is another blessing.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I was blessed enough to get a chance to work directly with him as the talent, and
Yeah.
understand, what kind of vision and tone and soundscape he wanted for his comedy special.
Right.
And so, taking all that and developing that in my studio here in Los Angeles, my own personal studio.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that kind of came quick. Netflix is great, and they're
Mhm.
like, this is kind of what we see and envision, and working with DL also, this is his vision. And then you kind of get a shot to do maybe 3 tracks, and then they choose the right one for that. And I remember we were kind of running short on time,
Yeah.
and I got to, I think, produce 1 track, and it just so happened that they loved it. Everyone loved it. DL
Amazing.
had some structure
Mhm.
input on that, and restructure it the way he wanted it. And
Mhm.
it was a great project. And check it out. Go to Netflix and check it out. It's DL Hughley the Contrarian on Netflix. Yeah, super cool.
Well, you weren't just doing sound designing for Spotify. I know that you also started something else that also has to do with your first love, which is DJing, right? And you became an influencer, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
That was another thing that came out of pandemic for DJs and musicians all around. We
yeah.
didn't really have a place, a venue, a home to go and do what we do.
Right.
So, I jumped on the streams. I jumped on Twitch.
Right.
I jumped on Kick, which is another streaming platform. And, it's one of those things that I was doing when I was 13 years old in my bedroom. I was practicing and cutting up records and playing tunes
Right.
for the posters on my wall. The only difference now is I flip on the switch on the camera
Yeah.
and I'm cutting up records and playing tunes for the posters on my wall, plus the community that I've been able to build around the streams, and it's just an awesome community. And I've been able to develop my own mix show,
Okay.
and I implement not just turntablism, but the comedy chops that I gained from the radio side of
So
things,
you have some
and
skits and stuff
the
and just
skits, the man on the street bits adds some production value, but
mhm.
also what are the listening to the listener, what's in it for the listener. I like to give them a little something extra, and you see a ton of people streaming and playing tunes for folks on these platforms, but I like to give them a little something extra that they can go talk to their friends about at work or at school and say, "Hey, I heard this on Michael Motion in the morning over on his channel, and
Yeah.
he's talking about the 5 things in your office that might kill you." And so it's something that they can take away, since they're spending time
Yeah.
listening to somebody like me and getting some entertainment. I want them to take a little something too of value. So that's been great to me. I've had some success in that, and I want to keep that going for as long as I can.
It's amazing. So let's go past Spotify. And I know that we were you're next on this next journey of yours, going into a completely different space, right?
Yeah.
You're about to take a whole nother transition in life, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just one of those things. You got to keep evolving. We just,
So now where are you going?
that's such a man. There's so many answers to that question, but you never know. You never know where it's going to take you. That's the beautiful part about all this. I never intended to I never intended to even get on the radio. It started as a dream,
Right.
and I started with one turntable and a
In a
learn how to
boombox.
and a boombox. And so the fact that I was able to take that and get into radio, the fact that from radio it took me into producing imaging, the
Yeah.
fact that that took me into producing composition for originals, films, and things like that, the fact that that took me into different avenues. I'd like to say that I had a plan and I knew that that was going to happen, but
Right.
you don't know.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you want to place yourself, and you want to manifest what you can control,
Hmm.
and that's about all the access that you get to that. After that, the universe does what the universe does, and
The universe.
it's just one of those things. So yeah, I'm embarking on a whole new journey now. I'm super excited about this new project that's going on. Um, and we might be having this conversation again in another year, and we're gonna have some very exciting stuff to talk about. So
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the next chapter, and I think it's gonna be just as amazing.
Okay.
And I plan to really develop this into something that is new, and
Okay.
and this is kind of my vision and my gift back to broadcasting, since it's given me so much. It's something that I feel it's missing in broadcasting that nobody is doing just yet,
Okay.
and I think I've lined up with the right person to
Okay.
do it with, and I think it's going to be revolutionary in the broadcasting world, and I'm super excited about it, man.
And can you tell us what that is?
I don't know if I can talk about this yet, because it's still in like legal and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But uh, you got my lawyer on the line. Okay, I don't know that I can talk about. I honestly do not know that I can talk about it yet. But let me just say that look, it's being part of an amazing team, a morning show team in Los Angeles,
Okay.
and people that I also grew up listening to, and if not the top morning show in Los Angeles at the moment,
That's amazing.
and not just producing a morning show like I've done in the past, but adding to that, and what's coming is going to be, I think, something that everyone is going to be implementing in the near future.
Wow.
And if they don't, then they're going to be missing out, because we're doing it first, and we're doing it right, and we're gonna kick ass at it. So
Well, I guess
um
that just leaves room for more conversation next time.
it's going to be amazing, man. I can't wait. Los Angeles and the world, be ready. You can follow me on all my socials, and you can
Mhm.
definitely learn what's happening on my social media. So
Amazing. Okay,
yeah.
so here's a few really important questions. In the industry that you work in, and it's heavily dominated by males, right? And just thinking about DJing, right? How important is diversity and inclusivity, like in DJing? You know, like, have you found, like, what do you have to say about that? Because I'm interested in knowing. You work, it today, right?
Mm,
We're seeing a lot of really like amazing acts, as females coming up. Like,
sure. Yeah.
explain to me, like, what's your take on that?
Wow, I am so for it, man. I love it. I don't even for a time, there was this term being thrown around where it was like DJs, and then it was like a female DJ,
Right,
you
right,
know.
yeah.
I never really understood that. I feel like a DJ is a DJ. A
Hmm.
DJ is somebody who loves music, plays some music. I've never really categorized myself as a hip hop DJ.
Hmm.
I've never really categorized myself as a dance music DJ. I've
Okay.
been I've been nominated for Dance DJ of the Year 2 years in a row on Twitch.
Yeah.
From my dance experience, and I produce dance music,
Mhm.
where I incorporate turntablism and using the turntables as instruments within the dance community.
Mm.
And I've been known to enter a random DJ battle and rock with it. So
Yeah.
I've never been one to kind of put a label on that type of DJing.
Yeah.
I'm just a music lover, and I love to play music for people, and I love the reaction that promotes from people.
Right.
So for a female or a male to do it, I really, I think it's all in the same. I've even have been fortunate enough to have some students of mine that have
Yeah.
been female,
Yeah.
and that are now full blown DJing careers, doing amazing shows all over the world.
Wow.
And it's never been like, oh, they're a female DJ or they're a male DJ.
They're
They're
just,
badass DJs,
yeah.
and that's really all that matters. I don't feel like, I've been able to meet, because of that, I've been able to meet people from all walks of life and all different types of nationalities and cultures. And that's a beautiful thing, man, when you can surround yourself with
Hmm.
people from different sides of the globe. I mean, we were just talking on the way up here. I was in Stockholm,
Right. Yeah.
and y- to to be able to reach people on that side of the planet from a turntable here in Los Angeles still blows my mind. So
Yeah.
the fact that you can surround yourself around those people because of that art
Uh-huh.
of all walks of life is just a beautiful thing.
Hmm.
It's just amazing.
So share with me, what are there some, like, things you do that deal with your capability of manifesting your destiny? Like, is there some like, practices that you do to keep yourself focused, to keep yourself, is there anything that you could share, like, that's something that you do regularly to keep yourself
I'm a
going?
big fan of meditation. I did practice a lot for growing up. I kind of invested the time and put that into my routines.
Hmm.
It's an investment. It's kind of the same thing with practicing. The more you do it, the better you get at it. I'm not I wish I could say I still regularly do it, but there's days where I skip out of stuff, and because I'm traveling a lot
Yeah.
lately and things like that. But you find a corner to do it. You find a safe place to kind of close your mind off for a
Mhm.
brief period of time, and that does wonders to me. But I think that's more for your sanity and your focus. I think one key element is your why. The reason why you do things is
It's
the
very
most
solid.
important,
Yeah.
and you gotta write that down on your forehead and look at that every single day in the mirror, and wake
Wow.
up and say, that's the reason why. And that is forever changing. For
Yeah.
a minute it was wanting to be the best scratcher, or then it was wanting to be the best broadcaster, or wanting to be on the best morning show, or wanting to beat the ratings from the other show. And now, it's morphed into wanting to be the best dad, and wanting to inspire the next generation, and wanting to pass it on to future um broadcasters. I still now, I go to Cal State Fullerton. I just did a speech there, and they
Yeah.
they they had me speak to the graduating class for the music department, and
Yeah.
and I spoke to them about the business, and they still have me come up to Cal State Long Beach and speak to them about broadcasting, and teach a workshop that I've developed on broadcasting,
Wow.
and how to navigate your way through the business. And even to the point where my professor over at Long Beach City College, where I first got tapped on the shoulder, personally called me and said he's retiring, and he wanted me to take over his job and teach the course, teach the class,
Wow.
and so I have a passion for passing it down, and keeping that alive, and
Hmm.
hoping that they're gonna take it to the next level, and
Right.
and and
Right.
and hopefully keep me in the mix. So, and hopefully they just run with it,
Yeah.
and not just that, it's just your why. For me, it's making my daughters proud. They're developing now their own show on YouTube, and it's called the Brizzy Day on YouTube, and they're doing funny skits, they're doing pranks, and these are 8-year-old twins that are just seeing all of this happen in front of their living room, and
Wow.
it's like they're like, we like that, we want to do that, we want to entertain. And they're doing
Wow.
theater now, and so your why is constantly changing. Right now, for me, it's making those daughters proud, and from my art, from my craft.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great advice, actually. Let me ask you one last question here, and this is probably one of the most important ones for me, because throughout your career, you've had to have a level of resilience in order to accomplish the things that you have accomplished up to this point. What does resilience mean to you?
Wow, I think it's, rolling with the punches, taking the punches on your chin,
Hmm.
just staying focused, knowing what you're after,
Yeah.
why you're doing it, why you wake up early in the morning to go do that show and put everything you have into it,
Hmm.
and doing it all over again the next day, and taking those hits that come along with it. That's resilience. That's having the top morning show in Los Angeles one day,
Yeah.
and being fired the next day, and
Right.
and having to talk to your psychologist about it, and getting through those hardships, and everything that comes along with that. The highs are very high, the lows are very low,
Yeah.
and just knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel. You're gonna survive this. You're
Mhm.
gonna go on to do amazing things that you can't even comprehend even now, because I had no idea that any of this would happen when I first picked up that turntable or that record, and
Mhm.
everything that I've ever done, I feel, came from that, and so, it's the universe doing what the universe does, and you placing yourself there, and saying, here I am, this is what I'm after, let's go get it, you know I think
That's resilience.
yeah, yeah.
Amazing. So why don't you go ahead and share with everyone how they can contact you? Go ahead and give us your socials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on Instagram, you can reach me at Michael Motion, one word. X or Twitter,
Yeah.
Facebook, all of the above. DJ Michael Motion on TikTok. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/DJ Michael Motion.
Mhm.
I'm currently doing festivals and DJing on the road here and there, all over the Midwest and Los Angeles, East
Mhm.
Coast, Stockholm. Um, and I just landed a residency here in Los Angeles at Sunset Rooftop. I'm doing every last Saturday of every month,
There you go.
just in the heart of Hollywood, and coming to the airwaves very very soon. Once again, and you can find all of my content on my socials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for what Michael Motion has next. I want to thank you very much for doing this with me, and along with that, I'd like to thank Grand Performances for always supporting us and being there for us to actually put on the show. And till next time, this is For the Rotation. I'm Ace. See you next time. Thank you for tuning into For the Rotation. If you found inspiration in today's episode, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Please visit fortherotation.com to view more episodes and support our podcast by purchasing some cool merch. You can also find us on all social media channels at For the Rotation to engage with our community of dream chasers. Until next week, keep the inspiration flowing and your dream alive, and return to learn how we do it all for the rotation.